In December 2019, the world was largely unaware of the obstacles it would soon face as the novel coronavirus began its spread. Fast forward almost a year and a half later, over 106 million people contracted the virus, with over 2.3 million having passed away. Social distancing, wearing masks, using hand sanitizer, and staying home have become the new norm as governments, companies, schools, and individuals have learned to navigate the new way of life. A life amid the pandemic.
2020 was a very special year.
It's a historical year for all of us.
The coronavirus has affected the global community in various ways, even though in varying degrees.
In relation to the daily life, society faced a situation in which students who are not able to go to the schools, they have to use remote teaching or remote education to interact with their teachers, to learn. Also, the businesses have been impacted by this virus. Many shops, many businesses, many small businesses have been affected.
With the enforcement of the lockdown, travel on water, rail, and airports is banned, and all sort of road transportation is being suspended. All non-essential organizations, business, and educational institutions are closed, except for pharmacies, groceries, and other unavoidable necessities. And the impact on my work actually underlies the last statement I am mentioning, that is, other than pharmacies, almost everything were being closed.
That's brought different circumstances because, before we didn't actually plan for this period, like having 6 months locked in homes.
Where we were limited in the way we were able to move and to work.
Not everybody had the kind of space available at their home dedicated to them that they could turn into office. Several of our team members had a couple of siblings, or even in some cases parents, who also had to do work from home. And initially, because of those inefficiencies, it meant that we were spending more time in front of the screen. And because there was no 9 to 5, technology failing, internet not being available, electricity shutdowns, and outages just meant that not everybody was available at a regular time, at a scheduled time. People were working late night. And then the fear of the pandemic and the virus, all of that, I think, took a toll on many of our team members. But some of the positive things that came about is it allowed us to look at our product and solution and make some fundamental changes and reach out to bigger and larger audiences.
Initially, it was a bit difficult to adjust to a new situation, but we all humans have a great tendency to adapt to the situations and make the best use of it.
From our point of view, we didn't even try to do this. We understood quite early that we need to propose something new, something different, and something which will be actually adapted to the situation. So to be very short, it allowed us to bring new blood, I would say, to the community, but also to invent things and to go with the innovation.
Pretty much as soon as COVID-19 happened, we had the idea for a program for volunteers in New York City to teach students in India in conversational English once a week over Skype. But very quickly after, as Geeta mentioned, the digital centers closed all across the world in India, the ones that we helped sponsor, we realized, hey, a lot of students aren't getting that consistency that they were getting before. So using our app and our online platform, we crowdsourced volunteers from all around the world, from New York, from Canada, from the UK, from Japan, from India, and so on, to serve as mentors to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of students in India every single week in conversational English classes over Zoom. And what made this particularly remarkable is our app was set up in a way that every single class that took place had a Zoom link in it that anyone could go in and watch. This allowed people who were a little nervous about maybe becoming a volunteer to just watch a few classes, get an idea of what things would be, and then join. And before long, they were teaching classes every single week.
Normally, we visit schools to introduce our technology, and then we train the teachers how to use it. And when the pandemic started, we could not go and visit them, and we couldn't also go to rehabilitation centers or schools. So in the beginning, it was very difficult for us to keep up with our work, as we couldn't enter schools or engage with children. And also we couldn't engage with parents or teachers in the same way that we were used to. And specifically for children with disabilities, the majority are still trying to find the right tools to stay and learn at home. And so we decided to develop our learning platform and our learning software for any student that needed also hardware, that is our keyboard. And for example, we can ship the hardware and the solution we can let them use while they are at home. So we do like a virtual learning, or we do the remote schooling with them.
One of the biggest challenges we faced was around funding and the financial resources. We are an impact-oriented startup, and we're still sort of in the phase of improving our business model, our delivery model, our payment models, and building the ecosystem slowly. So we rely on the investment that we receive from our funders, and also from donor-supported or corporate-sponsored projects that we do. And many of them were halted immediately when COVID-related economic shutdown happened in Pakistan. So those were some of the challenges that were quite severe. Additionally, specifically talking from the context of ICT and its adoption, while we had some of the tech tools, handy, at the end of the day, you deal with humans, and in a way, many of the ICT tools that we have available to us, they helped to mitigate some of those, but at the same time, they also were not able to address many of the challenges that exist. Like one simple challenge that we have is we have work from home and work from the office, and just a simple thing of timekeeping and timesheet management and sort of recording activities, that's a huge challenge. It's not because the tools are not available. The tools are available. It's just that our team and the behavior is so different from what they're used to.
As you know, almost 100% study group workings has been done virtually, and that has a good point and bad point. Good point is that attendees from developing countries increased, but of course, virtual meeting has a lot of difficulties. You cannot see the face of the participants, and we have no coffee time and everything. So we need to see how we can manage the virtual meetings in the future.
Yeah, the great challenges really were that people were not able to come to our digital learning centers. And also people were in panic mode. And also so many people who had gone to cities to earn a livelihood from rural villages, they had to come back because there were no jobs in cities.
Communities suffered, business closed. So it was very difficult to survive. Many people lost jobs, including us, of course, during the lockdown. As I said, we were not working. Even some people who were benefiting our programs, they lost some support from edifieds because they have not been working. That's how actually it became quite difficult.
Our business have been interrupted, our projects have been put on hold. We had to cut costs and in so many different places, but I think we're just part of the community. It's a stage that we had to pass alongside the rest of the society.
It's been a challenge to coordinate the efforts of different government entities, because each ministry is looking after one specific issue. For instance, health and mobility are not necessarily in charge of developing the same kind of programs, obviously, but the digital agency has aimed to coordinate and bring together all of the parties involved in order to make sense to the public and have people understand the strategy and the logic behind the decisions that are being made in order to contain the pandemic.
The first challenge I would like to talk about is related to resistance to change. Some of our customers, also the public, and not all the public, are already literate regarding using ICT applications and using ICT for accessing information or interaction or interacting with others. So at the beginning, we had this kind of resistance to change. The other challenge is also related to the cost that are related to this kind of applications. In fact, our system or our service is a free service given to the public and decision makers. But for the cost, we are facing the running cost of the cloud services, the specific application that we use that need specific licenses. So this kind of cost was a challenge for us. Finally, since our platform is freely available with open access, this sometimes allowed other people to, let us say, take the information that we publish. I don't want to say steal the information, take some of this information and publish them on their resources, sometimes without mentioning the source. So this was another challenge.
We all know that the activity went online all over the world with the coronavirus, and of course with the online activities, cybercrime activities raised as well. And well, people went online from quite often without having the knowledge how to behave safely and what are the challenges online that they can face, for example, scams, but also, for example, Zoom booming and etc. and etc. So the victims, cybercrime victims raised, and we said, well, listen, we do have this knowledge. We do work on cybercrime and cybersecurity awareness for the last 10 years. We do have this young community of the youth ambassadors that we call Youth IGF movement. So let's put things together. Let's use also their knowledge, their motivation, and let's help people, assist victims of cybercrime on what to do in the first minutes or first hours when they became a victim of cybercrime.
The whole Corona crisis was like an accelerating process for this kind of technological evolution.
I believe that technology becomes a greater equalizer, the vantage tool to heal the soul of a nation and to create opportunities for a more hopeful future, especially where technology becomes the middle path where all of us can walk through in spite of the physical indifferences or circumstances we face.
For Farm Radio International, the center of our mission as an organization dating back more than 40 years is to support radio stations and radio broadcasters in order to be able to deliver essential services to their audiences. And we're somewhat unique in terms of the role that we play in that sense. We have more than 1,000 radio stations that are part of our network in 41 countries in sub-Saharan Africa. So the pandemic has made it more clear to us than ever that people rely on radio and mobile phones as a trusted form of information and communication. And the pressure on broadcasters, especially during the early days of the pandemic, was very, very intense. The kind of support systems that we were able to deploy in order to support such large numbers of broadcasters, to be able to be that trusted voice and that source of security and information and communication for millions of rural residents in sub-Saharan Africa was quite profound.
I think the greatest benefit of ICT is network. I think, in one word, that kind of connection has really allowed for the world to live through this pandemic. I can't imagine how in 1918, when you didn't have any of these ICTs, the world must have come to a halt. Now today, the economic situation isn't as bad because people have been able to produce, people have been able to consume. The world has, in a way, continued to live on. We created a vaccine in record time. So in many ways, some things were produced faster than they've ever been produced. And this was not the case 100 years ago. And I think ICT is the only thing, because humans haven't changed otherwise. And it's because of technologies like the ones we're using right now. It's allowed us to build millions of networks, and each network, when it connects with another network, and it just has a multiplier effect. And I think that kind of improvement in scale has allowed for humanity to make unprecedented progress during the pandemic.
I always say that there is always something good in bad, right? So I think what happened was this virus started spreading so fast, and it disrupted pretty much everything, and especially in the industry that I am in healthcare. And a lot of things had to be, all the priorities had to change, and the way healthcare has been delivered had to rapidly change because everyone was trying to limit face-to-face interactions. And the speed of innovation and speed of adoption of new technologies, new business processes was, I think, applaudable.
Without ICT, nothing would be possible.
I can say that without the help of ICT as an enabler, this couldn't be applied before the pandemic. All these activities, in fact, were parts of plans, future plans before the pandemic. And they planned to achieve them within a period of, let us say, 5 years. But within less than a year, the ICT and also the pandemic accelerated the process, and this became now the new norm.
In spite of the many challenges that arose as a result of COVID-19, stakeholders of the WSIS Forum remained unquestionably resilient. We would like to thank all who participated in our WSIS COVID-19 ICT case repository interviews and workshops, including those not shown on screen.